September 18th, 2024, 3:47 a.m. Toropets, Tver Oblast, Russia. 380 kilometers from the Ukrainian border, a military arsenal operated by Russia's main missile and artillery directorate. The 107th GRAU arsenal, one of Russia's largest ammunition storage facilities. Inside, reinforced concrete bunkers designed to survive nuclear strikes. 30,000 tons of munitions sit waiting. Artillery shells, rockets, guided bombs, fuel, ammunition from Russia, from North Korea, from Iran. Everything Russia needs to sustain its war against Ukraine. The facility sprawls across several square kilometers, multiple bunker complexes, each designed to contain explosions, each supposedly impenetrable. Russian commanders sleep soundly. The arsenal is deep inside Russia, far from Ukrainian strike range, protected by multiple air defense systems, S-300, Pantsir, radar coverage. Nothing can reach it. They're wrong. Ukrainian drones are already inbound. Long-range strike drones, flying low, avoiding radar, navigating through Russian airspace, heading toward coordinates programmed hours earlier. At 3:47 a.m., the first drone strikes, then another, then more. The bunkers designed to survive nuclear weapons don't survive Ukrainian precision strikes. What happens next will be recorded by seismographs across Europe, visible from space, and felt on the battlefield 700 kilometers away. This is WarFist TV, where we analyze the battles that change wars. Because the destruction of the Toropets arsenal didn't just eliminate ammunition, it demonstrated that nowhere in Russia is safe from Ukrainian retribution. Hit subscribe. You need to see how one strike eliminated Russia's ammunition supplies for 3 months. The 107th GRAU arsenal at Toropets was a Soviet-era facility, constructed during the Cold War, designed to store strategic ammunition reserves. The facility featured hardened bunkers, reinforced concrete walls meters thick, underground storage chambers, blast doors, ventilation systems with filtration, security perimeters, everything needed to protect ammunition from attack. After the Soviet Union collapsed, Russia maintained the facility, upgraded some systems, expanded storage capacity. By 2024, Toropets held approximately 30,000 tons of munitions. The composition was diverse: standard artillery shells, 152 mm, 122 rocket ammunition for Grad and Smerch systems, guided munitions, KAB glide bombs, Iskander missile components, surface-to-air missiles for air defense systems, small arms ammunition, millions of rounds, fuel and explosives for various weapon systems, and critically, munitions recently supplied by North Korea and Iran. North Korea had shipped artillery shells. Estimates suggested over 1 million rounds. Soviet caliber 150 mm and 192 shells. Russia desperately needed them. Domestic production couldn't keep pace with consumption. Ukrainian artillery was destroying Russian guns. Russian guns were firing tens of thousands of rounds daily. Stockpiles depleted rapidly. North Korean shells filled the gap. Iran supplied different munitions, drone components, explosives, some artillery ammunition. The exact quantities remained classified, but intelligence reports confirmed Iranian material at Toropets. All of this sat in bunkers the Russians believed were invulnerable. The facility's defensive systems included layered air defense, S-300 batteries positioned to intercept aircraft and missiles, Pantsir S-1 systems for short-range defense against drones and cruise missiles, radar coverage providing early warning, electronic warfare systems to disrupt GPS guidance, security forces patrolling the perimeter. The Russians had reason for confidence. Toropets is 380 kilometers from Ukraine. Ukrainian tactical drones couldn't reach that far. Ukrainian missiles had limited range. Storm Shadow, 250 kilometers. ATACMS, 300 kilometers, both insufficient. Russian air defenses could intercept anything Ukraine launched, or so the theory went. Ukrainian military intelligence thought differently. Throughout 2024, Ukraine developed long-range strike drones, domestically produced, various designs, some jet-powered, others propeller-driven. All shared key characteristics: range exceeding 500 kilometers, payload capacity for explosives, GPS and inertial navigation systems, and stealth features to reduce radar signature. Which Ukrainian capability matters most for deep strikes? A. Drone range. B. Navigation accuracy. C. Payload size. Comment your answer. Ukraine also developed sophisticated intelligence networks, agents inside Russia, satellite imagery analysis, signal intelligence intercepts, open-source intelligence gathering. By mid-2024, Ukrainian intelligence had compiled detailed information on Toropets, facility layout, bunker locations, security measures, air defense positions, weak points. The intelligence revealed something critical. Despite the bunker's strength, the facility had vulnerabilities: ventilation shafts, access doors, external equipment, command buildings, and most importantly, the ammunition had to move. Trucks brought supplies in. Trucks took ammunition out. During loading and unloading, munitions were exposed. Outside the bunkers, vulnerable. Ukrainian planners identified the optimal strike approach: multiple drones, simultaneous arrival, targeting ventilation systems and external structures, creating penetrations allowing follow-on strikes to enter bunkers. The plan required precise timing, navigation accuracy, and enough drones to overwhelm air defenses. The strike operation began September 17th evening. Launch sites inside Ukraine, exact locations classified, multiple drones took off, flight paths programmed, waypoints set. The drones flew low, following terrain, avoiding major cities where air defense concentrated. Flight time, several hours. As the drones approached Toropets, Russian air defense detected them. Radar signatures appeared, multiple contacts, S-300 systems activated, search radars tracked, fire control radars locked, missiles launched. Some Ukrainian drones were intercepted, explosions in the night sky. But not all. Ukraine had launched enough drones to saturate Russian defenses. Some got through. At 3:47 a.m., the first drone struck. Target: ventilation shaft on Bunker Complex 1. The explosion was relatively small, 50 to 100 kilograms of high explosive, but it penetrated. The ventilation system channeled blast force into the bunker. Internal damage began. 30 seconds later, another drone, different bunker, another ventilation system, another penetration, then more strikes. Rapid succession, multiple bunkers targeted. Stay with me. What happens when 30,000 tons of ammunition starts detonating is beyond anything you've seen. Inside the bunkers, disaster unfolded. The initial explosions damaged ammunition storage, artillery shells cracked, propellant ignited, small fires started. Within minutes, temperatures rose, more ammunition cooked off. The bunkers were designed to contain explosions. They worked. For a while, blast doors held, concrete walls absorbed pressure, but the fires spread. More ammunition detonated. Pressure built. At 3:52 a.m., 5 minutes after the first drone strike, Bunker Complex 1 catastrophically failed. 30,000 tons of ammunition doesn't explode simultaneously. That would require detonation. This was deflagration, burning, but at extreme intensity. The bunker's roof, meters of reinforced concrete, lifted. Blast pressure found the weakest point. The structure failed. Flames shot hundreds of meters into the air. The shockwave radiated outward. Windows shattered in Toropets, 4 kilometers away. The sound was recorded 50 kilometers distant. Seismographs detected the explosion as an earthquake, magnitude 2.8 on the Richter scale, not from the explosion itself, from the ground shock. Satellite imagery captured the event. NASA's Firm's fire detection system recorded massive thermal signatures. Commercial satellites photographed the aftermath at dawn. The images showed devastation. Where bunker complexes stood, craters remained, some 50 meters across, 10 meters deep. The nuclear-proof bunkers were gone, debris scattered across kilometers. Burning fragments started fires in surrounding forests. A second bunker complex detonated at 4:03 a.m. The chain reaction continued. Fires in one bunker spread to adjacent storage. More ammunition cooked off. Another catastrophic failure. Another massive explosion. This pattern repeated through the early morning. By 6 a.m., multiple bunker complexes had exploded. The facility was an inferno. Secondary explosions continued for hours, individual artillery shells cooking off, rockets exploding, fires burning through remaining ammunition. Russian emergency services responded. Fire crews from multiple regions converged on Toropets, but they couldn't approach the facility. The explosions continued. Too dangerous. They evacuated nearby civilians instead. Approximately 14 civilians were injured, mostly from broken glass and debris. No reported deaths among civilians. Military casualties were different. The 107th GRAU arsenal employed military personnel, guards, logistics specialists, maintenance crews, officers. Estimates suggested 200 to 300 personnel on site. When the explosions began, evacuation was impossible. The bunker complexes were separated by hundreds of meters. Personnel couldn't reach safety. Some tried to flee. Explosions caught them in the open. Others sheltered in structures that collapsed or burned. Russia never announced military casualties from Toropets. Official statements mentioned only civilian injuries, but military casualties were inevitable. Intelligence analysts estimated dozens killed, perhaps over 100. Russia buried the numbers along with the bodies. The material losses were staggering: 30,000 tons of ammunition. To understand the scale, consider Russian daily artillery consumption. At peak intensity, Russian forces fired 40,000 shells daily. One 150mm shell weighs approximately 43 kilograms. 40,000 shells equals 1,120 tons daily. 30,000 tons equals 17.4 million kilograms. Divided by 43 kilograms per shell equals approximately 404,000 shells. At 40,000 shells daily consumption, that's 10 days of ammunition. But Russian consumption had varied. Sometimes 20,000 shells daily, sometimes less. And Toropets held more than just artillery shells. The facility stored rockets. GRAD rockets weigh 66 kilograms. Smerch rockets weigh 800 kilograms. KB guided bombs weigh 500 to 1,500 kilograms each. Fuel and explosives add more weight. Estonian intelligence provided a different calculation. They estimated Toropets held 750,000 artillery shells. At 30,000 shells daily consumption, that's 25 days. At 20,000 daily, that's 37.5 days. Call it 1 month of ammunition. But consumption rates were already dropping. Ukrainian strikes on ammunition depots forced Russia to reduce artillery fire. By late 2024, Russian artillery fired approximately 20,000 shells daily, down from 40,000 in early 2024. The reduction wasn't voluntary. Russia lacked ammunition. Toropets made the shortage worse. 1 month of supplies eliminated immediately. The loss included North Korean ammunition. Over 1 million shells reportedly stored at Toropets. Those shells had traveled thousands of kilometers by ship from North Korea to Russian ports, by rail across Russia to Toropets. They never reached Ukrainian front lines, destroyed before firing a single shot. If you believe logistics wins wars, type WarFist TV in the comments. Iranian munitions were also destroyed. Exact quantities unknown, but intelligence confirmed Iranian material at the facility. Drone components, explosives, guidance systems, all burned. The strategic impact extended beyond immediate ammunition shortages. First, Russian logistics were disrupted. Toropets was a major distribution hub. Ammunition shipped there for storage, then distributed to units. With Toropets gone, Russia lost distribution capacity. Other depots became overloaded. Transportation bottlenecks developed. Second, Russian ammunition reserves decreased significantly. Russia entered the war with large Soviet-era stockpiles. 3 years of intensive combat depleted them. Domestic production couldn't replace consumption. Imports from North Korea and Iran helped, but those imports were now burning at Toropets. Third, Russian artillery effectiveness declined. Ukrainian forces reported decreased Russian artillery fire after Toropets. General Syrsky, commander-in-chief of Ukrainian forces, stated in January 2025 that Russian daily artillery fire had decreased from 40,000 to 20,000 rounds. Toropets was a contributing factor. Fourth, Russian morale suffered. Soldiers at the front needed ammunition. When supplies ran short, missions failed. Attacks stalled. Defensive positions became vulnerable, knowing that massive ammunition stocks burned hundreds of kilometers away while frontline units rationed shells damaged confidence. Fifth, Russia's defensive vulnerabilities were exposed. The arsenal was deep inside Russia, protected by air defenses. Impregnable. Yet Ukrainian drones destroyed it. If Toropets could burn, what else could Ukraine strike? Russian military planners faced a dilemma. Concentrate ammunition near the front for quick distribution, but risk Ukrainian strikes, or store it far from the front for safety, but increase logistics challenges. Either choice had drawbacks. Ukraine exploited both. The destruction method was particularly significant. These were not Western-supplied missiles. No Storm Shadow. No ATAC-MS. These were Ukrainian-developed drones, designed in Ukraine, built in Ukraine, using domestically sourced components where possible. This mattered strategically. Western allies provided weapons with restrictions, range limits, target restrictions, political considerations. Ukrainian domestic weapons had no such limits. Ukraine could strike any target it deemed necessary, as far as drones could fly. Toropets demonstrated capabilities exceeding 500 kilometers. Subsequent strikes reached even farther. The nuclear-proof bunker claim deserves examination. Were the bunkers actually designed to survive nuclear strikes? Probably not direct hits, but they were designed to survive nearby nuclear detonations, blast overpressure, thermal radiation, electromagnetic pulse effects. The construction was robust, reinforced concrete, underground placement, blast doors. Soviet engineers built them well, but nuclear-proof doesn't mean invulnerable. Nuclear weapons detonate above ground. Their effects are primarily blast, heat, and radiation. The bunkers were designed for those threats. Ukrainian drones attacked differently. Precision strikes on specific vulnerabilities, ventilation shafts, access points, repeated strikes allowing progressive damage. And once fires started inside, the bunkers became ovens. Ammunition cooked off. Pressure built. Structures failed from within. The bunkers couldn't contain 30,000 tons of ammunition burning simultaneously. No structure could. Answer: B. Navigation accuracy matters most. Drone range gets you to the target area. Payload size determines damage per drone, but navigation accuracy ensures you hit the right target. Miss by 100 meters, you hit nothing important. Hit the ventilation shaft, you start the chain reaction. Ukrainian drones demonstrated precision, hitting specific structures, creating the conditions for catastrophic failure. Think about the planning required. Ukrainian intelligence identified Toropets as a target. Months of surveillance, satellite imagery, signal intercepts, agent reports, human intelligence from inside Russia. They mapped the facility, located bunkers, identified vulnerabilities, determined optimal strike approach. Then Ukrainian engineers designed strike drones, long range, sufficient payload, navigation systems. Production began. Dozens of drones manufactured. Quality control, testing. Operators were trained. Flight profiles programmed. Contingencies planned. Finally, mission approval. Strike authorization from highest levels. Launch. Navigation through Russian airspace. Avoiding detection where possible. Accepting some losses. Overwhelming air defenses with numbers. Then precision strikes. Each drone finding its target. Creating the conditions for cascade failure. This wasn't luck. This was months of professional military planning executed flawlessly. The aftermath continued for days. Fires burned at Toropets for 72 hours. Secondary explosions intermittent. Russian authorities established 10-kilometer exclusion zones, evacuated nearby villages. Fire crews could only wait. Eventually, the fires burned out, consumed available fuel. The destruction was total. Satellite imagery showed before and after. Before, organized bunker complexes, roads, structures. After, craters, scorched earth, debris fields. The facility was gone. Russia never acknowledged the full extent of damage. Official statements mentioned a drone attack, successful Russian air defense interceptions, minor damage. But satellite imagery told the truth. Local residents told the truth. And most importantly, the battlefield told the truth. Russian artillery fire decreased. Ammunition shortages affected operations. Attacks failed for lack of shells. The evidence was undeniable. Was this strike worth the resources Ukraine expended? Should Russia have dispersed ammunition storage? Could air defense have stopped this? Comment your analysis. Subscribe to WarFist TV, because we break down the operations that changed the strategic balance. The ruins of Toropets remain, craters where bunkers stood. Russia will eventually rebuild, but 30,000 tons of ammunition cannot be replaced quickly. The shells from North Korea will not arrive again. The Iranian munitions are ashes, and Russian soldiers at the front will fire fewer shells because of what happened September 18, 2024. 380 kilometers from Ukraine, Ukrainian drones proved that distance means nothing. That impregnable is a fantasy, that modern warfare reaches anywhere, and that logistics vulnerabilities can be exploited with precision, planning, and patience. The explosions at Toropets registered on seismographs as an earthquake, but the real earthquake was strategic. Ukraine demonstrated capabilities that changed Russian calculations, changed defensive priorities, changed the war. Stay vigilant.